I believe in good comics. I am proceeding forward with turning burningstarcomics.net into a more official publisher. Yes, we are going to be opening up submissions for other people who maybe don't have another publisher to go to, or maybe want to also take their first step into doing comics. Maybe you'd be interested in also joining the Burning Star Comics team. So some might ask, dannphan, why do you want to go into the publishing realm? Why don't you just focus on your own comics, since you make comics? That's a fair question. I've very often criticized and kind of raised an eyebrow to modern day comics for having a lot of the same problems, such as lowering standards, lowering quality, demonizing traditional values, not really promoting happy or healthy lifestyles, as well as being kind of morally incompetent in some cases. And in a way, when you're a creator and you see other people creating things that you just don't really agree with, you want to then create some things in response to that, kind of making up for this big gap in the market that's been created over time, where you don't really get a lot of more traditionally leaning stories. You don't really get more positive stories, or stories that don't really focus on politics being their main selling point. And while I do create a lot of my own comics that kind of go against the grain of the modern way, I am simply one person. If I really want to kind of make a dent into how modern comics are, and I also want to encourage other creators to take a positive spin on their comics as well. And so that's kind of the idea behind Burning Star. Every publishing company has a general theme that they try to keep to, so that people know what the publisher is known for making and what they can depend on the publisher for publishing. For example, some publishers will focus on horror stories, some publishers will focus on translating manga, some publishers will focus on superhero stories, etc., etc. And I feel like if my publisher is mostly known for creating happy, positive stories, or even just fluff pieces, that wouldn't be the most terrible thing to be known for. And if you yourself are an independent creator out there, and maybe this inspires you to go out and create a comic of your own that has a nice positive story, maybe you submit it to the site. I want you to know that even if your story gets rejected, even if I decide not to publish it, I'm still proud of you for going forward and taking the steps to go create something positive. Because I do genuinely believe that we need more stories like those in the world right now. Everyone wants to do the edgy thing, and edgy is fine, but I cannot express quite clearly my disappointment when I read something, it has like this super depressing ending, and then it just ends. That's just it. Just the takeaway is everything's bad and you should feel bad. And I close the book and I'm like, well, my day is ruined. Thanks. I don't want any of those books. I don't want to publish any of those books where you just feel awful after reading it. People talk about having a healthy diet as far as what you eat, but I think we should also strive to have a healthy mental diet as far as what you read or watch. It's not terrible to enjoy a more melancholic story, but you should also make sure that you're mentally staying healthy by balancing it out with some happy stories every now and then. That's my perspective on things anyway. So now let me go over what exactly is going on with Burning Star submissions, since this is kind of a new page put together, and it won't exactly be open forever, right? Because things about the submissions could change going on. I'm gonna be accepting and reading people's comics that they submit for just a limited time between now, as in when I post this video, and February, the end of February 2024. And then in the future, I may reopen submissions, I may change some things, who knows? But for right now, I'm looking for stories in these types of genres, and let me explain. So action, yes, obviously action is always welcome, because who doesn't like action? Literally nobody. And in general, I think shonen manga has really got a good idea of what an action series should look like when it comes to having an underdog sort of learning and becoming better, bettering themselves, and, you know, fighting evil as you should do. I think for a lot of people, they can read these stories and genuinely be very inspired by them, which is why I will be looking for them. It is very important to make sure that you remain motivated and inspired and ready to go out there and do things to make the world a better place. Next on the list is romance. Now, I have very often said that yes, I do enjoy my romantic stories. I think that this is somewhat of an undervalued genre, to be honest. You see places like Webtoon trying to take advantage of the romance market while also putting out terrible romances. But I see a lot of potential with romance stories. When I'm looking for romance, I also want it to be a positive, more traditional romance, because I feel like that's also in the spirit of happy and healthy. Like I said, I don't want someone to close the book and be like, man, that's depressing. She was in a love triangle for most of the book and then she picked her second choice. I've also been introduced to, more recently I guess, this concept of marriage comics where it follows a married couple going through life, and typically they're very fluff oriented, but they are actually very nice. And I like seeing positive depictions of marriage because there's so many sitcoms and negative spins on marriage where it's like, oh, if you get married, you're going to be miserable all your life. And people very often joke about that, like, haha, your wife is like your ball and chain, just dragging you down to the depths of the ocean. You should marry someone that you love, and then you should have a happy life with them, or at least strive to have a happy life with them, rather than going forward with this pessimistic attitude that you'll never be happy again. So I would be very interested in contributing to this new romance genre. And lastly, of course, comedy, because who doesn't want to laugh? I'll give you all triple points if you can combine all of these three together, of course. Now, while I'm listing these three genres as being what I'm most looking for when it comes to submissions, I am willing to publish genres that are different. It's just that these are the ones that I'm most interested in, and I think if you want a good chance at having me accept your submission, you'd be better off creating something that's in line with an action, a romance, or a comedy. Because, like I said, I'm looking for something more positive based, and in general, horror doesn't tend to be very positive. Not that it can't be, it certainly can be, but it just doesn't tend to be. So I left that genre out. Without further ado, I guess we'll get into kind of the nitty-gritty of what this publishing is going to be like. What I want you to try to create is an open-ended one-shot. So the idea with a lot of comics I've created is that they have an ending for the first issue or first book, but it ends openly, meaning that it has the potential to continue. And this is how a lot of manga is as well, where they create one volume of a story and have it open-ended so that if it's popular enough, they're asked to continue it. Or in Shonen Jump magazine, they'll have a few chapters that they put out, and if it's popular enough, they continue it, and it becomes a full-fledged series. I imagine most people will want to submit a series, but I don't want to commit too hard. I'm not interested in publishing a full series that goes on forever and isn't popular. I want you to do your best to sell people on a comic before you commit to making it a series. If you're not really sure how to make a full story and have it be open-ended at the end so that it could potentially continue, you can certainly look at some of my comics as reference. For example, It's Not Like Getting a Job Will Kill You, open-ended, and of course, more recently, Horizon Quest, written by Adam Meisner, and it just tells the story of how the adventuring party comes together, but it could continue following the adventures of said party. Now, as far as length for your first book, I'm saying it can be anywhere from 20 to 200 pages. 200 more so mimicking manga style printed books, and then 20 pages more so mimicking American floppy books. Mostly this is important because of the ratio size of the pages, so keep this in mind when you're creating your story. I listed what the document sizes should be. I will say that not every story that will publish in the future will get a print released. I'd like to have prints of every book on the website, but sometimes it just can't be done. As I said before, kinda has to do with popularity. I'd like to open up pre-orders on the website rather than doing a campaign for every book, or perhaps do a campaign at the end of each year where I offer to print every book that we had released digitally that year. Now, since I'm approaching Burning Star Comics as an indie publisher, I'm saying that you get to keep 100% ownership of your own work. You can leave whenever you want for whatever reason you want. If I'm spouting off values that you just don't agree with, then you can take your comic and publish it yourself, or go to another publisher and try to publish it there. So please do look over the submission page, read it carefully, and see if you would be interested. If you are submitting, you can, for the most part, expect me to try to get back to you within like 2 weeks. I'm not really expecting to have an overflow of comics immediately, and I'm not really expecting to accept an overflow of comics, but I do think it would be an ideal situation if I could get enough new submissions to set up a decent schedule for 2024 to always be coming out with something new. And then maybe potentially by the end of the year, I could open up submissions again, and maybe it'll be the same deal, or maybe I'll mix things up a little bit. But right now I do want to take things step by step while also trying to push Burning Star Comics a little bit further down the line. Because especially when I'm also thinking about trying to start up an ongoing comic series of my own that I'll be doing most of my focusing on, I'm not going to be able to make as many different types of comics all at once, meaning that I will have to rely on the sheer talent of you guys to help me make great comics that people will want to read. And then I get to share them with all of my YouTube subscribers. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, I'll certainly do my best to answer them via our live streams or direct messaging, email, you know the drill. Just don't contact me on Instagram because I never see my messages. That's all I got to say for now. I'm excited to see what kind of stories you come up with. I also hope that some of you are equally excited to see what kind of new stories come to Burning Star in the future. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.